Greetings, everyone. This is Timothy Youngs, the Digital Apothecary, and I figured I'd be doing some videos today, just to catch up on some stuff that's been going on. I recently got back from the annual AACP meeting. If you're not familiar with that, it's the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy. It's basically where a lot of academics get together in pharmacy and basically talk about status of education, and people get together and kind of present different things they're doing in education. I thought it was a very fun meeting this year. There's a lot of stuff that was going on that really was quite fascinating. But my main purpose was to do some executive work for a committee I'm on, and then also for basically to present on digital health for academics, which actually I thought went relatively interesting because it was quite fascinating in front of a room about 150 people. And for your information, this conference is only about 2,000. I think it was this year maybe 2,500, but generally it's around a little bit over 2,000 people that attend. And there was a lot of interest in terms of what is digital health, but probably one of the most surprising things for me was the fact that it was a relatively new topic for a lot of people in that room. So you have to keep in mind, a lot of people who come to these presentations are basically deans, their pharmacy practice, their pharmacy sciences. Those are generally the two main, departments in the pharmacy school. So it was interesting to hear a lot, like me getting up and telling them, like, oh, well, we are at this point where this is the amount of people using wearable devices. This is the amount of people who are using mobile apps. These are the different types of stuff, even for medication adherence. And I think that was quite fascinating to hear the audience response, basically, oh, we have bioingestible sensors. Where'd that come from? We have smart pill bottles. We have all this stuff. We have smart inhalers. We have smart diabetes pens. For insulin pens. And we're looking at this, and it's just watching this audience, so just being like, this is brand new, really kind of gets me, because what that's telling is, despite the fact that I'm on this whole digital health track for pharmacy and also for other healthcare professionals, the fact of the matter is, even in higher ed, we're going to be lagging behind. I think this is kind of a thing that needs to be addressed probably here shortly, because if you think about it, there's a whole push from, let's suppose, startups in pharma. Pharma wants to think beyond the pill, trying to get to digital health. You have a bunch of companies who are teaming up with digital therapeutics companies. They're buying startups, they're integrating them into their products. The question then becomes, at what point does it just suddenly spill over into the mass market? It's not going to happen overnight. Despite what I think a lot of people want. This is going to be a 5 to 10 year project, I feel, and we've been doing this for over a decade. Rather, what we're probably going to see is the fact that you're going to have these students graduate, become new practitioners, whether it's a medical student going to residency, PA, NPs, PT, pharmacy, OT, all the, they're going to go out there to get on the job training to do it. And it's maybe slowly this whole digital health topic will filter down to the schools and it'll be adapted. But there's going to be some early winners, I think, that will lead the field, and there will be some latecomers that will just have to take it from everyone else. And that drives the question is, who is a good partner for this at this point in time? My thing is, if you're a founder, if you're an executive that has a digital health product, you should probably be looking to team up with schools, like medical schools, pharmacy schools, nursing schools, especially depending on who you ultimately want to benefit from the product. Yes, it's going to be patient focused, likely, and patient's going to be end all in terms of who's going to be utilizing it, but who think about the back end, who's going to be supporting it, who's going to be looking at the data, who's going to be using it on the patients or starting them on it. You kind of want to go from that avenue, and you really want to consider basically, oh, well, how do I get them started on my service or my product and understand how to use it? Do I want to wait till they're out practicing and then hit them and be like, oh, this is what it does? And they're like, oh, what is this new field and everything? Like, I never even heard about this stuff. Like, what's wearable technology? What's digital therapeutics? What's, telemedicine? Like, what's the laws? What's the regulations to go into it? Those are questions that a lot of clinicians are going to ask. Wouldn't it be better to hit them up front at schools who just prefer, and this is the reality of what they're going to be working into? Healthcare will constantly change. Eventually, digital health just becomes health. But that transition, I think, is going to happen slowly. I think higher ed, and especially for pharmacy and medical schools and such for educational purposes, I think we can start now, honestly. But we're going to need some heavy partnership to get to that point, whether it is going to truly be pharma or some other organization that doesn't. I look at the Digital Therapeutics Alliance that I help out with. I look at DIMI, Digital Medicine Society, for instance. There's a bunch of other ones that are coming out. They might be possible. I don't know if our traditional societies and organizations are going to be the best for this right now because they're still learning. So like even if we turn to like AMA, who have a digital health group that's focused on this stuff, I think they might lead the medical program more. Pharmacy, for instance, no one's doing it, and I think that's going to be a hard thing. Is this going to be an ASHP, APHA, AACP thing? I don't know. I really don't know. And for those of you that are outside of pharmacy and don't even know what I'm talking about, I do plan on doing a follow-up video in the future talking about the different organizations in the pharmacy space and maybe ones to partner with or consider going to work with. In any event, going down to it though, we probably need to at some point discuss what is it that we need to consider for what is educational materials. Where would it fit? And I'm going to talk now specifically about pharmacy. Where does this fit? Is this an elective class? Is this a certificate? Is this another degree added? Are we looking at this idea that we're basically going to put this in the core curriculum? Let's be honest, most core curriculums are really, really saturated with a lot of material just to meet for accreditation purposes. Throwing this on without ACPE or the accreditation body saying you need to do it, I don't think anyone's going to step up and do it. So it's going to be mostly electives and maybe sprinkled in somewhere else, like maybe in like care labs or pharmacy practice labs, or maybe different experiences. Possibly going on rotations, maybe we'll start seeing residencies that can be focused on it, maybe informatics, for instance. We do know pharma fellowships. There are people interested in digital health in industry. Those might be the people I get really into if we talk about like maybe like regulatory practice or the integration of this stuff in like clinical trials. That might be something that this might go to. At the end of the day, though, that's a lot of post-grad work, and that's a lot of elective material. It's not necessarily going to drive most people to be aware of this stuff. And maybe at this current time we don't need to. Maybe it's just that it's very much those that have an interest we can get. But how do we capture those people so they don't be like, oh, I wish I known about this beforehand? I think that's like the big question for me right now. The big concern is just making awareness and then helping people understand, okay, this is available and how to go about and utilize it. The other thing is, partnerships. So if we go down the route, like let's say partnerships with pharma, let's talk about bioingestible sensors, for instance. Is that going to be the producer of these products? So right now it's Proteus Digital Health. Are they going to be the ones that maybe give out demos or how-to guides to use it since they're all using their system? Is it going to be a pharmaceutical company? So Otsuka has a Abilify MySite, for instance, or let's suppose Truvada teams with Gilead. Would that be one? It's all kind of the same basis. So how much do you really want to educate? I think that comes back to the whole problem of, let's say, like EHRs even being discussed about. There's multiple EHRs in the United States. Epic is one of the biggest ones, yes, but at the end of the day, you just need to practice and utilize one EHR so you know the premise so that you can bounce around using the other system. I would say that be kind of like the end-all be-all, at this current time. Maybe that's where it's looking at digital health. We talk about medication here, it's not like we have to focus on like one smart pill bottle, or the idea of just like a smart pill tray. It's just the overall conception. So like, how does this fit? How will this work in like clinical practice? How would you deal with this data? If we're talking about remote patient monitoring, we have these Bluetooth blood pressure cuffs that can fit the data, but does this mean that we need to just focus on, let's say, Withings product, or could we just jump off and say, oh, Omron and stuff like that? Or how would you know the finer tune, like what's the difference between the two? That's one thing I think that we need to really discuss. The other thing that got me was talking when I gave this presentation was new facets of data. Digital biomarkers, for instance, came up, and that was something that a lot of the audience wasn't even aware of. When I discussed about the implications of real-world evidence and what that comes into, I think that also was kind of like, oh, well, we regard randomized controlled trials as the end-all be-all, but the reality is that, primary literature, we have other stuff coming out. There's going to be different ways for data analytics. So how do we prepare students to basically deal with this stuff when they go out and practice? I think that's one thing that needs to also be considered, because I think longitudinally that's going to set us up for some issues if we negate the fact that these are new kind of trial designs coming out. And that's basically because of the role of digital health plays and such. That's going to come into the overall kind of schema for it. The last thing is I'm really concerned about is that we turn all this stuff into siloed mentality. Like I could honestly see, we end up saying like telemedicine at one we put like pharmacogenomics in another area, we put like adherence in another area, but we don't tie this all together, and we will basically do the same thing we do with teaching students about disease states. We silo them all, but we don't connect them together. Digital health to me is like this umbrella term that has all these little things underneath, and what I'd hate to see is the fact that we just go after one over the other and we cherry pick things, but we don't demonstrate how it could fit basically holistically, let's say, in the overall healthcare process for a patient and help them address different concerns and disease awareness in terms of what resources are out there. That to me is where I'm really kind of worried about as well. And that will probably bring me to my end conclusion. Is I also get concerned with the fact that if there's not an overall discussion about how it's best to approach this whole situation, we could end up in a situation where you could get predatory. You could have organizations or health companies give stuff to students and say this is what's going to be on the market in the future, and you have to always recommend their product because it does this. And I would hope that any professors out there that are considering like integrating this into their educational utilization would want to at least be objective as possible and not be biased towards one way or another. And that's probably one thing that does get me attention because I'm concerned where that could potentially go in the future. In any event, so this is my thoughts in terms of where does digital health fit in higher ed. So I would welcome your thoughts and comments. This is Timothy Yost, the Digital Apothecary. Have a good day.